Um, so this is my second video in what I hope will become a series of videos talking about topics from an autistic's perspective. Today I want to talk about contact. So eye contact, casual hugs, casual conversation, things like that, and why they make me personally uncomfortable. I know that for every single person, neurotypical, autistic, neurodivergent in some other way, there are different reasons why we find certain things uncomfortable or comfortable or like doing certain things. So I can't speak for everybody, but I hope that in giving my view, it may lead some people to ask their loved ones with who are on the spectrum why they don't like certain things, rather than just taking the word of a doctor or a research article or something like that. I think even if we have, even if somebody is nonverbal, I think that it is possible, of course, with aids to still express why they don't like something. So for your loved one, find a way that they can express themselves, sit down and talk with them. Why don't you like this? How does this make you feel? It's difficult to express feelings, but I know that for me, if someone just asks, I can do my best. But if they don't ask, I a lot of times won't feel comfortable enough to share that because it's a very personal thing. And so yeah, for me, sorry, I'm going to be talking a little bit slower today. It's been a very difficult week. This morning especially, 2 days ago, I kind of just stayed in bed all day, and I am hoping that doing videos on days when I'm having a harder time but still feel like I can do something will help me to feel accomplished for the day, will help me to feel as though I got something done. I struggle a lot with feeling lazy, which is really difficult when I just can't do what I need to do. I struggle with executive dysfunction, which I'm really thankful that I found out that that is something that I struggle with, because for a long time I just thought I was lazy or a procrastinator or just stupid, honestly, because I couldn't get things done. This is kind of a rabbit trail, so if you want to learn more about executive function and executive dysfunction, Amethyst Shaver, who runs Ask an Autistic over on their YouTube channel, has a really great video about executive dysfunction, where I found out about it and began to connect the dots with myself. So anyway, back to contact. So yeah, it can be different for every single person, obviously, because we're all different, and it's not the same for every single autistic person, I don't think, which is why studies can be really dehumanizing and take away the voice of the autistic person at times. So if you want to know something about an autistic person, the best thing to do is to ask them. Just gonna put that out there as kind of a side note. We won't always be able to tell you exactly why we do something, because sometimes we don't know, and so research can be helpful in that way to help us figure out, no, this is why I do it, this isn't why I do it. But if somebody is willing to share that with you, definitely listen to their voice, because they know themselves best. So, sorry. So for me, and I think a lot of other autistic people, I find eye contact very intense. If I'm looking into the eyes of somebody that I really care about, for example, my child or my spouse, or even sometimes extended family members, although there it is still a little bit more uncomfortable than it is with my partner, if I'm looking into somebody's eyes that I'm very close with, it's not that scary. It's familiar, it's safe, it is something I am okay with, but even still, then sometimes depending on what I'm feeling, if it's not something that I feel ready to express, or if the other person is feeling very intense emotions, it is very difficult for me. Because eye contact, for me, there's a lot of emotions in it, there's a lot of expectations, there's a lot of stuff that you can see in the other person and that I can see, and that makes it scary and overwhelming, and you don't want to intrude on what the other person is thinking or feeling. And I think for me that's what I feel like I'm doing. So I'm not trying to be rude when I don't look people in the eye. It's just very difficult for me emotionally. I feel it all right here, and it kind of hurts. It's very, very intense. And then also, if I'm looking somebody in the eye, I have a really hard time taking in what they're saying or thinking about what I'm going to say back. And so a lot of the time I will look away to think. So even now, even though I'm looking at my screen and I can see my face, it's still difficult, because even though it's my face, there's still so much to take in, or what's going on. So if I'm thinking about a thought, I have to look away, even though it's my face and it's very familiar, and it's not painful or uncomfortable in that way, but it is hard to look at a face that has so much information coming in and then also process the thought at the same time. So for me, that's why eye contact is difficult. Hugs, casual hugs, are along the same line. I'll be right in there, buddy. My son's in the other room. Casual hugs are along the same line. It's a very intense thing. Hugs mean a lot to me. Physical contact means a lot to me. And casual hugs kind of overwhelm me. So if I'm in a situation where I'm meeting a person for the first time, and a lot of times people come up and say something like, oh, I'm a hugger, I'm just gonna give you a hug. I want to be okay with it, because I'm not against that person or their intentions for why they're hugging me. But there is a lot that goes into physical contact for me, the reasons why I do it, why I give it. So receiving something like that in a very casual way can be very overwhelming for me. And then it takes me a long time to process that physical contact. So if I get hugged, I might not be able to say anything after that. And I think that can be even more awkward for the people who are introducing themselves to me, because I just don't talk to them after they give me a hug. So please ask people if they want to be hugged. Doesn't matter if they're neurotypical, neurodivergent, autistic, or autistic. Just ask people. Bodily autonomy should be just kind of a blanket respect thing. Not everybody wants to be hugged, and there's a lot of different reasons, but for me it's that it's a very intense thing, and it holds a lot of emotion, it holds a lot of information in it. And when I'm hugged, I have to process all of that, and it's very difficult to continue the conversation. So if I'm hugging people that are very close to me, I don't mind hugs, usually from my extended family. I love hugs from my partner. I love hugs from my kid, most of the time. Sometimes also I'm just very touched out. I am hypersensitive, which means that I take in information at a more intense level than people who are not hypersensitive. So if I hear a noise, it's a lot louder most of the time than it is to somebody who's not hypersensitive. I really enjoy music most of the time, but sometimes if I'm having a really sensitive day, I can't stand it. It's like torture listening to it. Lights are very bright to me. I like more being in darker type of rooms. I don't like, as you can see, my house has a lot of windows. That's where all of our light comes from, so I feel very comfortable in my house. I don't like overhead lights. I don't like fluorescent lighting. I'm very particular about my clothes. I kind of wear the same things over and over again because they get worn in, and then they're way more comfortable for me to wear. I hate being able to feel my clothes on my skin. Those are just some examples of being hypersensitive and what that feels like. So physical touch can be very overwhelming if I'm in a super hypersensitive state. So even sometimes hugs from my child or my spouse are very overwhelming to me. But in those situations, it's not because it's emotionally overwhelming, it's because it's physically overwhelming. So that's just for me, those are just a couple reasons why touch or eyesight or eye contact can be very overwhelming. Casual conversation can also be overwhelming, because to me, communication at all is about connecting to the other person. And since I can't pick up on nonverbal social cues in the same way that other people, that autistic or neurotypical people can. I pick up who the person is from the conversation that we're having. So if we're always talking about the weather, I'm never really going to get a good idea of who the person is, or if we are having chit chat, and for me, like, I really want to get to know people, but I don't know how to perform those kinds of social interactions without being incredibly awkward. So if somebody's like, oh, the weather's good, I'll be like, yeah, it's great. And then I'll kind of trail off because I have no idea how to continue that conversation. However, if somebody starts talking about something that is very, let's see, about them, I might not always be able to respond, but I like listening. So if somebody's talking about their day, or if somebody's talking about troubles that they're having, or just opening up, I like to listen to that. But it can also be very, very difficult if I don't know the person well, because conversation is, again, a very intimate, revealing thing to me, and it's very intense to have conversations of any type with somebody that I don't know. So I know this video is getting past 10 minutes now, so I kind of want to wrap up. And I'm sorry I was kind of long-winded and some of those things. I think I'll get better at this as I go. But yeah, I just wanted to put that out there because I was watching a documentary, and somebody in the documentary was going through therapy and said to their therapist, well, I don't like touching people. And the therapist said, well, we're going to break you of that. And that, it just really broke my heart, because it's like, they never said, well, why don't you like touching people? Well, what does that mean for you? And maybe they did in the actual therapy session, but in the documentary, that was what was put out to the general public about autistics is, oh, you just don't like touching people, and that's not okay, and you shouldn't touch people, even if it makes you uncomfortable, and that's something we have to break you of. And so I feel like there's a lot of that information going out there of just like, you have to break your child of this, you have to break your friends of this, you have to break your family of this, because it's not healthy. And actually the reasons that we don't like touch is because it is so intimate and so personal to us, and we do connect on that level. So that's just something to think about. I hope you guys all have a really good day, and that you, if you like my videos, please click like and subscribe and share them. Thank you. See you later.